In October of 2017, the hashtag MeToo social media movement re-emerged in light of the recent Hollywood expose of sex offenders, starting with Alyssa Milano reviving the movement on Twitter. A campaign started a decade ago by activist Tarana Burke. The campaign helped display how prevalent sexual violence is throughout our society and media, seen through the tweets of celebrities and everyday people, sparking inspiration for this very documentary. This documentary hopes to shed light on rape culture as a whole, what rape culture is, how it affects society, and how it affects individuals within society.
To describe culture as rape culture is to say that what we have is a kind of culture of permissibility around certain types of violations in between males and females primarily, and not saying that it doesn't happen the other way around. But I think in the great majority of cases we're talking about conditions in which women are vulnerable simply because they are women to certain types of violations, and they can range from verbal and psychological things all the way to physical assault, as we know. And I think the term rape culture really came about as a way of stressing the idea that there's a subtle permission in the background of the culture that allows this kind of thing to happen. And by that I mean many things, like, for example, the likelihood of the perpetrator ever going to trial in cases of people accusing the offender. Things like exonerating language in the press coverage. And also just the general tendency, I think, in the culture of people to doubt the testimony of people who've experienced this kind of thing. And add it all up, and if you have a culture that makes it seem unlikely for anyone to get relief or redress if they've been victimized, then you have something that could be called rape culture.
Sure. For me, one is always one too many. I can't do like a average per week. I usually take stats for the year, so I can tell you what last year's stats were. Yeah. So for the 16-17 school year, we saw 55 reports of sexual misconduct. So that runs the gamut from sexual harassment all the way to sexual assault. And so we track all of that. We don't just track sexual assault. Of those 55 that were reported last year, 22 were sexual assaults. When I first started doing this work, we had 4. To give you an idea of the increase in reporting. Well, sexual assault is one of the most underreported crimes, especially on a college campus, but in general, that's true. So I don't know. I don't believe that suddenly we had more rapes or more assaults. I do believe that we actively worked and continue to work on a policy and a culture that makes it more comfortable to report. So I think going from 4 to 22 speaks to that. I don't believe at all it means that we have any more or less. I think we are still working on making sure every single one is reported. And even when 22 are reported, we know that that's an underreport. We know that there's more happening. Yeah, I think probably more unreported than reported. But I do like the fact that, we went from 4 to 22, not because I like the fact that students are engaging in this behavior, but because if we don't know about it, we can't get those students help. I think it's important to know that sexual assault survivors have an increase in suicide ideation. They are more likely to drop out. They are more likely to struggle with alcoholism. They are more likely to suffer from mental illness. I mean, the effects of this kind of trauma are such that we can't afford not to know.
We're very excited to announce that this Thursday, November the 9th, we're going to have a Survivors Art Show at Blue Spiral Gallery downtown Asheville. And it's an opportunity for people who have been impacted by sexual violence to express through whatever medium they want what their experience is in their journey toward healing and hope.